Let me continue. Here we are in UI. Under this, we are in HTML4. Here we are in Web UI. First topic here, HTML4. Under this, HTML is a hypertext markup language. Here, markup language. Already we completed what all pair tags and unpaired tags we have under this. Second one, after this, we discussed here block and inline elements. After this, we discussed here pair and unpair, block and inline. After this, we discussed here marquee tag is mainly used to show scrolling content. Then fourth one, we explained here table tag is used to display table of content. Then after this table tag, here marquee tag, table tag. After this, UL tag is used to display unordered list. OL tag is used to display ordered list for our program. Next, after this, UL and OL. Here, sixth one we are learning, we learned yesterday anchor tag with the different target attributes here and with the frame set calls and rows. With that, how to divide our frame into multiple frames we discussed. Here, how to divide one window into multiple windows. How to divide our one single frame into multiple frames. So that is by frame set example we discussed. Next, we have to go for input element. How to write input type text, input type button, input type radio, all input elements. Next, after this, here after completion of these all input elements, here input type text is used to display text box for us. Input type button is used to display button tag for us. Input type radio is used to display radio button for us. Like this, we can write it here, all our input elements. Input type button is used to display button tag for us. Like this, how to use that input element? After this, form tag. Form tag method equal to either get or post and action page. Here, and also we have one is meta tag. How to use this meta tag, name and content, how to display that output, we will check it. So these all we have to, few are completed, few are we have to complete it. We are 9 o'clock. Today's session 14th. 14th November 2024 at 9 p.m. at backup. Yeah. Here, yesterday what we completed, let me check, share my screen. VS Code. Here I shared VS Code. Open recent. Open recent. 6 a.m. Here 9 o'clock. HTML4, block and inline, marquee tag, table tag, anchor tag, and list elements. Okay, list elements not yet completed. I'll show you how to write ordered list, unordered list here. I think I completed. Here list.html. Here list elements is mainly used to write ordered list and unordered list. How to write OL tag and UL tag, check it. Here unordered list. Here ordered list. Next one here ordered list. So we have two types of list elements. One is unordered list, another one ordered list. I'm writing UL tag here. Under this UL tag, how many list elements we wanted, those many list elements we can show for our program. So how many items we wanted, those many items we can display. Here itself we can write it here, item 1, item 2, item 3. Like this, we can write it here, all our items for our program. Here itself we are writing here all items for our program. See here, item 1, item 2, item 3, like this we can write. Suppose if you write it here, type equal to circle. So by this, if you don't write any type, by default all list elements will show you with a disk symbol. Here, if you want, mention here type equal to disk, even though all list elements with disk. Here it is circle, all list elements with a circle. Here it is square, all list elements with a square. Like this, we can write it here, UL tag. Here, similar way, we have one more one here, OL tag. OL tag is mainly used to write ordered list for us. This ordered list element, here how many list elements will write it, those many items we can display for our program. See here, I can write it all items. Under this, any number of list elements, we can write it. Here, LI start, LI close. Here only, you can write it here, item 1, 2, 3. Here, LI. Item 3. See here, you can mention here type equal to 1, 2, 3, capital ABC, small ABC, smaller Roman letters, capital Roman letters. These all allowed for OL tag. For OL tag, these all allowed types. So I'm writing here UL tag as well as OL tag. That OL tag, it is allowed like this. Okay. Here next, let me write for that. So here it is doc type, HTML, add, and followed by body. Under this head section, I'm writing here title. Title is mainly used to write. Here list tag example is the title. Here OL tag I'm writing here. Just 1 second. Yes. Here I'm writing here UL tag, UL. Here itself LI. Here how many items we wanted, those many items we can display for our program. See here item 1, item 2, item 3. I can write it here all list of items for our program like this. Here itself I'm mentioning here type equal to circle. So by that all list elements with a circle. Here only we are writing here UL, LI. Here UL and LI. Under this, how many items you will write it? Those many items we can show. Here LI start and close. Here LI start and close. I'm writing like this. See here how many items we wanted. Those many items you can write. By default, it won't show you any type. Here by default, we no need to write. By default, it is type will be here disk. So if you write it here circle, all list elements will show you with a circle. Same UL tag, I can write it here. Here I can write it here circle disk. Here it is disk. So by that it will show you with a disk. Here itself we are writing here circle, disk, square. Here by that all list elements will show you with a different type. Check it. Here I'm writing all list elements with a different type of circle, disk, square. See here, first list element it is showing here with a disk. Second one, we only mentioned type equal to circle. Third one, we only mentioned it is disk. So by default, UL tag is disk. And if you mention it, even though it is disk. Last one here, square. Circle, disk, square is allowed types for this UL tag. Here for this UL tag, circle, disk, square is the allowed types for this. Okay. So now you can check it. Here UL tag. This is what here unordered list. Here it is unordered list. This unordered list mainly will use it here in the application form. In the application menu bar. In the web page, we'll use it here. This unordered list. Unordered list. This unordered list will use it here. Unordered list will use it here to display that output here. Circle, disk, square, it will show you for our program. Here, circle, disk, square generally will show you for our execution. Here, next one, here circle, disk, square will use it here to display that output. So next I'm writing here H1 I'm writing here ordered list. This ordered list, here itself OL tag. OL tag, how many list elements we wanted, those many list elements will show you for our program. 1 second. Yes. Here, we are writing here. This OL tag will write like this. Similar way, one more OL. Under this, how many list elements we wanted, those many list elements we can write. Here I'm writing all list elements. Here only we can mention here type equal to here 1, 2, 3's. By default it is 1, 2, 3. If you write ABCs, all list elements with a ABC. Here only we can write it here all list elements with a capital ABCs. Here if you mention here it is capital ABCs. And similar way you can write it here. That list elements all we can write it here smaller Roman letters. Capital Roman letters. This way only we'll write our output. Here we are writing here OL tag, UL tag and all list elements for our program. We can write like this. Now check the output here. See here ordered list by default it is 1, 2, 3. If you mention type is A, so small ABCs, capital ABCs, smaller Roman letters, capital Roman letters. These all allowed for OL tag. OL tag, it is allowed like this. Now check it in any website here. If you check here, any website here, any school, college, any website here, that mainly menu bar. See here, main menu followed by sub menu, followed by sub menu. These all by here, this main menu followed by sub menu, followed by sub menu. These all mainly by UL tag. Here, main menu, sub menus, these all mainly by UL tag. Because of UL tag only, will show you that output like this. Here, because of UL tag only, will show you this type of output like this. Okay. Here, we are using here UL tag. Mainly UL tag will show you like this. Next one. Here, if you want, you can check it. Right click, inspect element on this. You can see that here completely LI. See here, UL and LI. So this is UL and LI complete menu bar. See, horizontal menu bar. See, from here onwards, it is horizontal menu bar. See, selected one is the horizontal menu bar. Here, this is totally UL tag. It is a horizontal menu bar. Next, here, UL and OL will display for our program like this. Next, I'm writing here. See, here we discussed here how to write under HTML4 pair and unpair, block and inline, anchor tag, frame set, marquee tag, table tag completed. See here, pair and unpair, marquee, table, list element, anchor tag, frame set completed. Then leftover one is only the input element. How to write input type text, input type button, input type radio, and how to use with the form type. So by that, we can complete HTML4 topic. I think Rajkumar, you listened this topic of form tag in the 6 a.m. batch. Form tag, when you joined on 6 a.m. that day only, I explained how to use form tag, submit button with exam server. That one only I'll repeat it today. And this meta tag and input element also I'll cover today. Okay, if not complete, I'll explain on next session, tomorrow session, 8:30. Okay. Here, now I'm going for input element. We can write it here, that list of all input elements here. So I'm explaining here all input elements for our program. How to write all different input elements, you can check it. So here itself, you can write it here. Input type text is used to display text box for our application. Here you can write ID of the text box, name of the text box. Here name, ID, class name, all we can write. Here itself label, username. Okay. Here close this label. So this way we can write. Here I'm writing username. This is one text box. And then class name for this, we'll write some class name. Here name of the text box. Class of the text box. Here ID of the text box you can write. Here I'm writing here one more label for password. Here password label we can write. Here input type equal to password. Here science. My notebook textbook. Other textbook. Here we are writing here form tag. So input type password. So by this it will display password box for us. ID of that password box, name of that password box, and the class of that password box we can write. Here name, ID, and class name we can write. One more label here, it is email. Here it is label. Here only you can find it here, input type equal to email. Main usage of this ID, name, and the class name here. ID, name, and class name here. Because of this ID, you can apply this ID with this text box value. You can access it from JavaScript. Here, ID and the class name is used to access this text box value from JavaScript. Name is used to access this text box value from server code. Here, we are writing here input type text, input type password, input type email. So when you write input type text, it will display one text box for us. Input type password, it will display one password box for us. Input type email, it will display here one email address for us. Okay, here only we are writing here input type, username, password, and email address. We are writing like this. Here input type, username, password, and email address for our application. We can display like this. So in this time, here I'm going for Here I'm going for input type email, input type password, input type submit. So now here ID mainly used to access. Here ID and the class name is used to access this text box value from JavaScript. Here used to access text box value from server code. Here class name is used to access this text box value. Here this is what here name used to access. Here used to access text box value here from server code. Name is for server code. Class name and ID is for used to access it from JavaScript. Here from JavaScript code only we can access these values. Here from JavaScript. So we can access this text box value from JavaScript by using this ID and the class name. Here we are learning here name, ID and class name. Name is used to access from server code. ID is used to access from here ID and the class name is used to access this text box value. Here ID and the class name is used to access this text box value from here so JavaScript. Okay, so now let me show you what all other input elements we have and how to use these all input elements to develop our application. Here I'm explaining here all input elements, how to develop our application with this input elements. You can check. Here now let me save. Here input type text, input type button, input type radio, how to write it, check it. Here how to display that all input elements for our program, you can check. Here input.html. Here doc type, HTML, here head, title. Here it is input tag example is the title. Here body tag. Under this body tag, we can write it here label. Label is for username. Next, I can write it here input type equal to text. ID of this text box, name of this text box, class of this text box. Here name ID txt, name un or um. Here class name un. Here like this I'm writing. Okay. Similar way I'll write label password. Okay. This is for password box. Here name username. Here name password. By this we can write it here input type equal to password. ID of password button pwd, name of password button pw, class of this password button pd. Here one more label I'm writing here, that is email. Here name of that email address. Here itself input type email. Okay. Here input type email. ID of this email address here em. Name of this email address emm. And class of that email address here em1. Like this we can write. So let's check it here how to work with this all. Here how to develop with this, check it. See here name, whatever you'll enter you can see. Password, whatever you are entering you cannot see. Okay. Here email address, whatever you can enter you can see, and it should be in the email address format. If you don't write email address format, if you mouse over here, see, it will give you tooltip for us. Please include @ symbol in the email address, missing @ symbol. Here, once I enter @ symbol here, see, output will come like this. This is the way we can write it here. This is what here, username, password, email address. Here, username, password, email address for our application, we can write like this. Here it is username box, password box, and email address box. Here all the way I'm able to write my output like this. All are inline elements, so that's why all are continuing within the same line. If you want to move it into the new line, you can use BR tag. Here you can use it here, BR tag, to move the content into the new line. Okay, so next one more label here, it is here gender. Gender for this radio button, we will write it here, input type equal to radio. Here, name of this radio button, ID of this radio button, class of this radio button. Name, here, ID, and then class name. Okay. Here, name, ID, class name, and value also we have to write it for this radio button. Why? Because radio button, we never enter any value. We'll select the value. So that's why we will write ID, name. Name should be same for this gender. Here, gender, name should be same. And here, second gender is for female. Here it is FF. Here it is female. Here, I'm writing here male and female for my program. Male and female, I can write it. This is what here gender for our application. Input type gender. So by that gender for our program, we can write like this. See if names are same, how the output will be displayed. See here. Two outputs will come like this. This is because of gender. Gender input field will come like this. Whatever you want, you can select it like this. Okay, here this is gender input field. Suppose if names are different, suppose if I am writing, so name is different. So this time you can show you output will be, see here, both radio buttons are allowing to select, but we should not allow to select both radio buttons here. Here, both radio buttons, we should not allow here. If you write different names here, it is allowing. See, if you write the single name, output will come like this. Here, input type, username, password, email address, gender, radio button, like this, we can write all our input fields. Here, label username, password, email address, gender, will write like this. Here, similar way, we can also write it here. Here, one more label I'm writing here. That label is used to write a label of content. Here, content information, we can write it for our program. That content information, how to display, check it. Here, I'm writing name, ID, class name for this. How to display that name, ID, class name for our program, you can check. And ID name should be same for this gender. You can select any one gender. Here we are writing value attribute here. Why? Because we are not typing the value of the gender. We are selecting the gender from the radio button. So that's why whenever you select it, you can write the value for this. This is what here value of that radio button. Okay, value of that radio button will be like this. Next, I'm writing here one more label. Here, label for username, password, email address, gender. Then another one here, country. Suppose if you want to write the country here, country generally will write it here, select and options. Here itself will write select. Select and options will write it here to select that country. Here only we are writing here value. See, India, USA, UK, like this, you can write all values. Here, if you write that options here, so first one I'm writing like select. Here it is select. Here, no value. Here it is USA. Here value, here it is USA. Here UK. UK value will be selected. Here Japan. Here Japan value will be selected. Here Japan. USA, UK, Japan, and other here, France. So like this, you can write it here, all countries like this. Here, every time I'm writing value here. Why? Because this value only will be submitted for our server page. So whatever value you are writing here, this value will be submitted to server page. Server page as well as JavaScript. Here, country drop-down list here, CNT, name, CT, here, class. Here, name, ID, and the class name we are writing here. With this only, we are writing our output like this. So now, Control S, save, then check the program here. Drop-down list, you can select any, radio button, you can select anyone. Drop-down list will be like this. Here also, you are selecting the value of the drop-down list. So just content of the drop-down list from the option. So value will be submitted to the server. Here, if you select the drop-down list here, that value, whatever you wrote it here, that will be submitted to server. Here, value, whatever I'm writing here, this value only submitted to server. This way we can write it here, country followed by select and options, country drop-down list. Next, I'm writing here one more BR tag. Here, label is for courses. So what all list of courses you want to learn, that you can write it by checkbox. Here, input type equal to checkbox, ID of that checkbox. Here, name of that checkbox. Here, class of that checkbox. Okay, like this we can write. Here only we have to write value for this. Here, value here, PHP, Java, .NET, Python, all will use it as our here checkboxes. In this checkboxes, you can find it here Java and you can find it here .NET. Java, .NET, Python, all will use it as our pages. Here I'm writing here CN2, then 3. Here I'm writing ID, name and the class name for this. With this, I can display my output. Here for this checkbox. Checkbox value will be carried for the next. See here, you can checkbox here. It is name, no need to be same. You can select all the checkboxes, or you can select only one checkbox, or you can select only 2 checkboxes, or you can select all the checkboxes. Anyway, it is allowed. This is for checkbox. But radio button, it should be only one. Radio button, we have to select only one radio button. Drop down list, you can select here any number of drop down list. Here, name and value. Here, gender will write like this. Here, gender generally will write it like this. Here, gender for our application form will write like this. Here, this is what here country drop down list. I'm writing all country. And this is what here gender. And this is what here name. And this is what here password. Here, this is what here here email address. Email address for our application will be like this. This way we can write it here. These all input fields. Input field for our application form will write like this. Okay. Next, I'm going for one more one here. Drop down list. I completed. Next, I have to go for one more one here. See, BR tag I'm using here. Here, next I'm using here one more label. Courses, country, date of birth. So date of birth generally will write it here by input type equal to date, one thing, and input type equal to date time. Here date time, one more one. Date time local. See here, these all input elements we have. See here. This is what here input type date. This is what here input type date time. You can write manual entry of date will be like this. This is what here date time local. You can select the date as well as time like this. Here, by this, the date time local will be like this. Here, this is local time zone, AM, PM format, 12 hours format, and date, month, year, as well as time and minutes, hours and minutes. This is date time. This is date time local. This is date time. This is date. See, any one you can use it to write this date. To write this date option, you can use any one from here. This is the way we can write input type date. Input type date is used to display date option for our application. BR tag. Next, I'm using here one more label. Here, this label is here age. Suppose if I want to ask for the age here, so I can write it here, input type equal to number. See, you can write ID for this, name for this, and class for this. Name and class, all you can write. So now you can find it here, input type number. See, age number, anything you can write like this. Any length number, it will allow. Rather than this, I'll write it here, maximum 100, minimum 0. Like this you can write. See here, it will allow maximum 100. So if you continuously increase, see after 90, if you increase it, here once it reaches to 100, see further it is not moving. See further it is not allowing. Here, but if you type it, it is allowing, but further it won't move. So it won't accept that. More than 100, it won't accept. Suppose if you write less than 0, if you try to write it, it will be 0. No minus age, and no age more than 100. So like that, we can write it here, that input type option, that to date time, date time local. So all the date options we can write like this. Here, all the date options will write like this. Input type date, we can write input type date time, you can write date time local, you can write. All the way we can write it here, that input options for our program will be like this. Input type date time, input type date time local. All the way you can write. Next, I'm going for one more one here, BR tag. Here for this BR tag, after this BR tag, I'm writing here label. Here, description of the user. Any descriptive information, if you want to write it for our program, we will write it by text area. Here, text area, we'll use it here to display that text area for us. Here, to display that text related information, we are using here descriptive information. Here, description. Here only text area. Here text area, columns and rows will use it. Here ID of this, class of this, here name of this. This is text area. Here text area will be here like this. So it is bigger than a text box. You can write any length text content in this text area. Any length text content, it is allowed here to display it in the text area. So we are writing here text area for our program. The text area, we will write it like this. Here, the text area will write it like this. So this time, the text area, whatever we are writing here, if you want to write calls and rows, columns 30, here rows 10. Suppose if you write like this, see here, text area will come like this. It is not limiting 30 columns and 10 rows. You can display that bigger text area. Text area will be bigger when you use like this. Here, any length, any column, any number of columns, any number of characters you can enter here. For that limitation, we will use JavaScript. But here, this is the way generally we'll write text area for our program. Text area for our program, we'll write it like this. This is what here text area. So you can write it here, text area in that columns and rows. With that, it will display here bigger size text area for our program. Next, I'm going for one more one here. This is here text area. Because of that, how it will display that text area, you can check. And next, I'm going for one more one here, label. Here, description, age, and all. Here, next one here, button. Input type button. You can write ID of that button, name of this button, class of this button. By this, here you can use this button from server code and from JavaScript. You can write it here, something value. Now I'm writing here button tag. In the button tag, I'm writing my content. See, both the ways I'm able to display the button. One is input type button, another one button tag. One is input type button, another one is here button tag. Okay. So up to now I explained here widely used input elements, which is widely used in the developing the application form. In almost all application forms, we will use mainly these all input fields. Checkbox, drop down list, radio button, radio button and drop down list, text area and text box and password box. Okay. So this way we can write it. This is the way you can write. This is what input element. This is one more input element. This way only we'll write our output for our program. Okay. Here it is username box and password box. This way only we can write our output. We can execute our output. Okay. Here username box and the password box for our program, we can work out like this. Okay. Username box and the password box for our program, we can write like this. Next, I'm going for here. We have to go for only two tags are left. One is meta tag, another one form tag. So form tag, I think I explained in 6 AM session. Meta tag is pending, but I'll give you brief information, complete information of the form tag in the tomorrow session. In tomorrow session, I'll explain to you how to work with the meta tag as well as form tag. Here up to now, we completed UL tag, OL tag, and input elements. UL tag, OL tag, how to use it to develop our application. After this, I explained here how to work with the input elements. Input type text, input type button, input type radio. How to write those all input elements. How to display. Here, okay. Here we are writing here. Here we are writing here input elements here, input type text, input type button, input type radio. Like this, we are writing here all input elements for our program will be like this. Because of this input elements, whatever input elements you are writing for our program, these all input elements are helpful to design our application form. Our complete application form will be designed. Here, our complete application form will be designed here with this input basic usage. What will be the basic usage of that input elements? All we will learn it under this. Next, form tag and a meta tag is left. So up to now, if you have any doubt, you can ask, please. Rajkumar.
If both ID and name is compulsory required for.
Yeah, required. If you want to read this input element value from JavaScript, you have to use it.
Only one is sufficient or both required?
You will understand when I enter JavaScript.
Okay.
Yes. Any other doubts?
No doubt.
No. That's it for today. We'll meet tomorrow at 8:30 for the continuation of syllabus. Thank you.